Sit down, still your mind, let the noise of the world evaporate, because what I am about to say is not for the faint-hearted, the pleasure seekers, or the passive observers of life. What I am about to say is for the man who has made a decision, a real decision, to step out of the gray fog of average thinking and walk into the white heat of purpose. You want to be rich. You want wealth, not as a trophy, but as a tool of power. You want freedom, not the kind advertised by commercials, but the kind that can only be earned through domination of self. You want dominion not over others, but over the only territory that has ever truly belonged to you, your mind. And I will tell you, without apology and without hesitation, that wealth, true wealth, will never belong to the man who does not act. Not once, not occasionally, but every day. You must act not because you feel like it, but because your destiny demands it. You must act not when you are inspired, but when you are invisible and no one is watching. You must act not out of urgency, but out of principle. Daily action is not just a productivity hack. It is the cornerstone of self-respect, because the man who cannot command himself to act daily is not yet free, and a man who is not free will never be rich. Let this be carved into your mind like scripture upon stone. Success is not a mystery to be solved. It is a habit to be enforced daily, ruthlessly, relentlessly. But how many men drift through life, drunk on potential, waiting for conditions to be ideal? They wait for the mood to strike. They wait for someone to support them. They wait until they feel ready. And while they wait, the world moves on. Do you know what separates the builder of empires from the dreamer of fantasies? The builder moves. The dreamer waits. Every day the builder lays a brick regardless of how he feels, regardless of who watches, regardless of whether he sees the castle forming. He lays the brick. Because action, repeated, is the only architect of reality. And those bricks become walls. The walls become structure. The structure becomes stronghold. And one day the stronghold becomes a kingdom. But the dreamer? He sketches the castle in his mind. He writes plans on scraps of paper. He talks about it with his friends. He watches others build and sighs with longing. But he never lays the brick. And so, though his intentions were noble, his result is dust. Let this be the beginning of your discipline. Act every day whether you feel like it or not, because your feelings are irrelevant to your future. Your feelings are not facts. They are not commands. They are weather systems in the mind. And if you allow those storms to govern your movement, you will never walk in a straight line. You will never finish the race. You will die with unused power. Now let me explain something few understand. Action is not separate from thought. Action is thought solidified. Each action you take is a vote for the man you are becoming. Each action you take wires your brain to either submit to impulse or rise to command. And every time you act with purpose, you reinforce your identity as a builder, a conqueror of time, a master of energy. This is what most miss. They think motivation must come first. They wait for emotion to lead them. But motivation is not the cause of action, it is the result of it. In the beginning, you must act with no reward. You must move with no validation. You must execute with no applause. This is the crucible. This is the fire that burns off weakness and leaves only steel. Let me speak to you as plainly as I can. He who acts every day cannot be defeated. He who waits every day is already defeated. It is not the grand act that makes a man wealthy. It is the small, disciplined, invisible acts done day after day after day until they compound into an unstoppable force. It is the decision to write the plan when others scroll, to train the mind when others gossip, to speak truth when others flatter, to refine, to cut, to polish, to organize, to work until wealth has no choice but to obey your standard. I ask you now, what action have you delayed? What commitment have you avoided? What enemy within have you allowed to whisper excuses into your ears? Kill it. Kill it with decision. Kill it with the one thing weakness cannot survive daily, undeniable, immovable action. Because the man who acts every day becomes inevitable. You do not need more time. You need more precision. You do not need more goals. You need more grit. You do not need more support. You need more self-direction. And I promise you this, if you act daily with definiteness of purpose, guided by principle, detached from emotion, and reinforced by discipline, nothing on earth can stop you from becoming rich. Not in money alone, but in power, in time, in identity, in peace. And peace, true peace, is the crown jewel of wealth. It is the result of knowing that every day you acted like the man you claimed to be. Now act, not tomorrow. Now, and then act again, and again, and again, until who you were is unrecognizable, and who you are is unshakable. Understand this well. The man who acts every day creates momentum so powerful that even failure becomes fuel. You see, motion is sacred. It is the spark that gives form to thought. It is the sacred transaction between the unseen and the seen. A thought without action is a corpse. A plan without motion is a lie told to oneself. A goal without daily labor is not a vision, it is a hallucination. Daily action is not just important, it is non-negotiable. But here's the deeper truth that separates the strong from the stagnant. You do not act to get rich, you act because you are rich in mind, rich in conviction, rich in command of self. Acting daily is the ritual of the wealthy in spirit, long before wealth is printed on the ledger. You do not wait for riches to act like the rich. You act like the rich to attract riches into your reality. The law is this: daily discipline is the gravitational force that pulls success toward you. And what fuels discipline? Definiteness of purpose. Without it, discipline is torture. With it, discipline becomes devotion. Now let us be exact. What is definiteness of purpose? It is the complete, unwavering commitment to a clearly defined goal that governs all lesser desires. It is a decision that burns bridges to escape and locks every door behind you except the one that leads forward. It is the refusal to live by chance and the audacity to live by command. When you know what you want down to its shape, its timing, its location, its cost, your actions stop being random. They become surgical. Every minute is sharpened, every hour is measured, every task is weighed against one question. Does this move me toward the goal? And if it does not, it is eliminated without guilt. Because guilt belongs to the undisciplined, not the decisive. You must now become ruthlessly selective about your focus. Because where focus goes, wealth flows. Do not confuse busyness with effectiveness. Daily action must be intelligent, targeted, and born from a central purpose like arrows loosed from a master archer's bow. A man who acts every day with no purpose becomes exhausted. But a man who acts every day toward one aim becomes unstoppable. Now let us tie purpose with detachment. If you are ruled by emotion, you will never be consistent. If you are attached to outcome, you will be controlled by progress. But if you are detached from emotion and anchored in principle, you will act with quiet power whether the world applauds you or ignores you. This is mastery, because your job is not to feel powerful. It is to be powerful regardless of how you feel. And nothing builds that identity faster than the act of showing up for yourself every single day. When the body is tired, act. When the emotions rebel, act. When doubt creeps in, act. When fear gets loud, act anyway. Because every time you act in defiance of weakness, you shrink the part of you that sabotages your destiny. And every time you act in alignment with purpose, you grow the part of you that will one day command empires. Now let us go further. The man who acts daily begins to develop what I call mental stamina. This is not the same as willpower. Willpower fades, but mental stamina builds like a muscle. It is the ability to think accurately under pressure. It is the ability to remain calm under chaos. It is the ability to work while others waver. The only way to develop this stamina is to put your mind under load every day. Discipline is not the suppression of desire. It is the domination of attention. And domination of attention requires practice. You cannot expect to master your mind without testing it against friction. Friction is the forge of greatness. So act. Act when it's hard. Act when it's quiet. Act when no one understands what you're building. Because the universe does not reward effort, it rewards persistence. Effort is random. Persistence is daily, mechanical, relentless action in one direction regardless of how the path feels. And if you persist long enough, the wall will break. Because persistence, tied to definiteness of purpose, becomes spiritual gravity. And gravity always wins. Let this be the turning point for you, not a spike of emotion, not a fleeting insight, but the pivot of your entire character. You are no longer a man who takes action when he feels like it. You are now a man who takes action because that is who he is. A man whose identity is built not on opinion but on execution, not on excitement but on ritual. You have become the rarest type of individual, not the most gifted, not the most connected, but the most disciplined. And in a world full of talkers and planners and pleasers, discipline is divine. Autosuggestion. This is the silent architect behind every great man's self-mastery. Do you think success is a matter of chance, of connections, of charm? Number. Success begins when the subconscious mind is given a command, and that command is repeated, reinforced, and reprogrammed until it becomes law. Let me be exact. The subconscious mind governs your habits, your moods, your decisions, your reflexes, your tone of voice, your posture, your breathing, your reaction to risk, your interpretation of pain, your anticipation of success or failure. If you do not dominate this inner world, you will be dominated by it. And the tool, perhaps the only tool that allows man to rewrite the default settings of his subconscious, is autosuggestion. It is the practice of conscious, repeated, emotionally charged thought, spoken or impressed into the subconscious until it takes root as identity. And once identity is altered, behavior becomes automatic. You no longer have to force discipline. You become discipline. You no longer have to act brave. You are boldness in flesh. You no longer have to fake focus. You are drawn magnetically to what matters. This is the hidden work, the work done in silence, in solitude, in the chambers of the soul where men either program victory or repeat the code of mediocrity. Let me be perfectly clear. You will never outperform your subconscious identity. You may act for a season. You may set goals, grind, hustle. But if your subconscious still sees you as weak, scattered, or unsure, your results will collapse to match that vision. That is why you must feed your mind every day, not with inspiration, but with instruction. You must speak to yourself not with hope, but with authority. Every morning, before the noise begins, you must tell your mind who you are, not in vague affirmations, but in precise commands that rewire your beliefs. Say it with force. I act every day, regardless of feeling. I finish what I start, no matter how long it takes. I do hard things with calm mind and relentless drive. I think like the rich. I move like the disciplined. I command like the destined. Do not wait to believe these words. Say them until you believe them. Because belief is not a precondition of action, it is the product of repetition. And repetition is the sculptor of identity. Now let us pair autosuggestion with emotional mastery. Because what good is a perfect plan if the first wave of doubt makes you abandon it? What use is discipline if your mood determines whether you use it? Emotional mastery is not about feeling nothing. It is about responding from principle rather than reacting from impulse. You must become emotionally neutral, not detached in apathy, but detached in power. The man who acts daily is emotionally independent. He does not ask, do I feel like it? He asks, does it move me forward? That is the only question that matters. All else is noise. And the reason most men fail is because they negotiate with their feelings more than they negotiate with their future. They let temporary discomfort vote against permanent greatness. They want wealth, but not the emotions that must be confronted to earn it. They want discipline, but not the solitude that forges it. They want power, but not the responsibility that must be carried silently in order to wield it with grace. But you will not be like them, because now you understand the equation. Emotion is energy. Thought is the director. Action is the proof. And daily, emotionless action is the only path to results that cannot be reversed by critics, chaos, or circumstance. Let me give you this truth, as sharp as steel. If your feelings have a vote in your decision-making, your future belongs to them, not you. Kill that weakness now. Replace it with principle. Build a mind that does not flinch. Build a system that does not rely on motivation. Build a habit that does not bow to doubt. This is how you separate from the world, not in speech, but in structure, not in image, but in identity. Let others seek comfort. You seek command. Let others chase excitement. You pursue execution. Let others get ready. You act every day, without hesitation, without apology, without asking for applause. Because when you act daily, deliberately, consciously, ruthlessly, you transcend the human impulse to drift. You become elemental. You become like fire, ever moving, ever consuming, ever rising. You become like stone, grounded, unshaken, immovable in your pursuit. And day by day, the weak parts of you will erode, and only the worthy will remain. You must act every day, not as a tactic, but as a way of being. You must act every day not because the world demands it, but because your spirit does. You must act every day not to prove, not to impress, but to become. Become what? The man who cannot be moved. The man who cannot be swayed. The man who cannot be stopped. The man who does not wait for fate but forges it. Because everything you have ever wanted, everything you dream of, everything that whispers to your soul in the silence of night, it is not waiting in the distance. It is waiting behind today's action. Not tomorrow, not next quarter, not when you're ready. Now, you see, the man who acts every day becomes sovereign, and sovereignty is the rarest thing a man can possess in an age of passive minds and borrowed thoughts. Sovereignty means you do not ask, "What should I do?" You decide. It means you do not consult your feelings. You command them. It means you do not apologize for the fire that drives you. You stoke it. And every act, yes, every single act becomes an altar upon which you sacrifice your weakness. You kill laziness with movement. You kill doubt with execution. You kill fear with forward motion. And in this daily death of weakness, something divine is born. Disciplina, conviction, unbreakable belief. It is not built in one day, but it is built every day. And every day you act, the world bends just a little more to your will. People notice. Opportunities rise. Time begins to serve you. But even if it didn't, even if no one applauded, even if the world ignored your rise, you would know. You would walk into every room with quiet command. You would speak only when silence could no longer carry your intent. You would rise at dawn without needing to justify it. You would work while others wait. You would lead while others wish. Because your soul would know, I acted when it was hard. I acted when I was tired. I acted when it was dark. I acted when no one believed. I acted when I didn't feel like it. And now I cannot be denied. This is the difference. Not talent, not background, not connections. Disciplina. Daily, unbreakable, unshakable, emotionless, elegant discipline. Let others drown in distractions. Let others seek shortcuts. Let others whine, wait, scroll, compare, hesitate. You are not like them. You act. You build. You repeat the act until it becomes law. Then you write new laws. Then you build new worlds. Because when you act every day, you're not just building wealth, you're building immortality. Ideas live forever. Habits echo through generations. Discipline outlasts every enemy, every failure, every storm. You now carry a code that cannot be stolen. So let this be the vow, burn it into your bones. I will act today. I will act when it is hard. I will act when it is silent. I will act when it is lonely. I will act because every time I do, I become the man who wins. Not later. Now. Because there is no someday. Only today. And today is the day you rise without resistance. Think without distortion. Move without emotion. And act without hesitation. Every single day. Until the life you once hoped for now bows to you. This is how you get rich. This is how you become legendary. This is how you become free. Act. Act now. Act again. And never stop until the world recognizes what you already decided. You were never meant to be average. You were always meant to dominate. You will act every single day, not because it is a habit, because it is now your identity. You will act not because you should, but because you must. Because there is no version of the future where you succeed without action. There is no alternate timeline where you skip the work and inherit the crown. There is no dream that survives the hands of a passive man. And every day you delay, someone else builds the life that was meant to be yours. Every minute you hesitate, another man with less talent, less intelligence, but more fire takes your place at the table of greatness. You must act every day, because every day you don't, your mind atrophies. Your confidence decays. Your standard slips by an inch, and an inch repeated every day becomes a chasm so wide that your former self becomes a stranger to success. You will act every day, not just to move forward, but to never go back. Back to the excuses, back to the overthinking, back to the endless loops of tomorrow, burn tomorrow. You only get one day, today, and you only get one man to command, the man in the mirror. So look at him now. Look him dead in the eyes and say, you don't get to wait anymore. You don't get to sleep on the dream. You don't get to flinch at fear. You don't get to shrink when it's time to speak. You don't get to watch the rich from the sidelines. You don't get to be average, not anymore. Because a part of you knows the truth. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to build the blueprint everyone else follows. You were never meant to chase success. You were meant to pull it to you with the gravity of your discipline. And now is the moment the old version of you dies. Let him go. Let the talker go. Let the doubter go. Let the procrastinator go. Let the comfort addict go. Let the emotional wreck go. Let the fragile, indecisive, distracted, reactive, excuse-ridden shadow of a man go. Because he cannot survive in the furnace you are about to become. From this day forward, you do not wait. You move. You do not explain. You execute it. You do not ask for less pressure. You lift more weight. You do not wonder if you're worthy. You build the worth with your actions. You do not dream small. You declare war on every limitation that ever dared to define you. You act relentlessly. You act ruthlessly. You act with a calm so deadly and a focus so sharp that reality bends before you. Because when you act every day, every door opens. When you act every day, your name becomes law in your industry. When you act every day, your thoughts become weapons, and your results become legends. And the man who acts truly, madly, obsessively acts cannot be stopped. Not by fear, not by failure, not by time, not by anyone. You now carry the fire. So use it. Build, strike, move, act, every single day, until they no longer ask, who is this man? They ask, how did he do it? And the answer will never be luck. It will never be talent. It will never be timing. It will be this. He acted every day until the world had no choice but to kneel before his discipline. Now go. Make the world remember your rhythm, one act at a time. Forever. There is a truth that the masses have forgotten. A truth so powerful, so pure, so dangerously effective that only the disciplined, the serious, and the inwardly awake will ever apply it. The truth is this: wealth is not attracted by desire. Wealth is attracted by law. You can dream, you can hope, you can cry, you can chant mantras in front of your mirror, but until you understand and obey the laws of wealth, your bank account will reflect nothing more than your confusion. Money is not loyal to people, it is loyal to principles. And there are only a few, 5 to be exact, that matter more than all the rest. These are not theories. They are not wishful affirmations. They are laws of cause and effect, built into the very structure of reality. And if you violate them, you will suffer. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it is precise. Now I speak to the part of you that is tired of excuses, allergic to mediocrity, and prepared to rule. Not react, rule. Because make no mistake, riches are not given, they are claimed. And you will not claim them until you become the kind of person these laws are willing to obey. So listen, not casually, not passively, but as if your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. The first law is this. Rule 1. You must think like a creator, not a consumer. The poor consume. They consume entertainment, emotions, distractions, news, noise, approval. Their minds are reactive. Their time belongs to others. Their energy leaks in 1,000 directions. The rich, they create. They create systems. They create thoughts. They create products, solutions, ideas, and above all, they create structure in their minds. You cannot attract money with a consumer mindset. Why? Because the act of consuming without intention is an act of surrender, and wealth only bows to the one who commands. You must train yourself to produce more than you absorb, and you must start with your thoughts. Every day, audit your mental activity. Are you thinking thoughts of design or drifting in thought by default? Are you generating decisions or reacting to emotional weather? Are you using your mind as a tool or allowing it to become a sponge? You must learn to think like the builder, because until your thoughts create, your hands will remain empty. And let me be clear, creation is not art. Creation is power in motion. It is the habit of taking invisible ideas and making them real, through focus, through discipline, through absolute unbending clarity of purpose. This brings us directly to the second law. Rule 2. You must be ruthlessly loyal to your purpose. Most people wander through life with scattered ambition. They want to be successful, but also liked. They want to build a business, but also stay comfortable. They want to be rich, but refuse to offend mediocrity. Let me make this simple. If your purpose is optional, so is your wealth. You cannot attract money with indecision. You must commit entirely, irreversibly, to one dominant aim. This is what Napoleon Hill called definiteness of purpose. It is the master key. Without it, your days will be chaotic, your emotions will rule your schedule, and your goals will rot beneath the weight of distractions. Purpose is not an idea. Purpose is a commanding internal law. It dictates what you allow, what you reject, what you pursue, and what you sacrifice. And make no mistake, wealth demands sacrifice. You must sacrifice ease, sacrifice being liked, sacrifice the comfort of indecision. The rich are not casual with their time. They guard it like treasure. They bend their emotions around their mission, never the other way around, because they understand that money does not follow talent. Money follows alignment. And when your life is out of alignment, no matter how gifted you are, you will repel opportunity. So make it your daily duty to realign your life to your chief aim. If something does not serve your definite purpose, it is a distraction, and it must be cut. That is the price of wealth, and that is why so few ever taste it. Now we move to the third, and perhaps most emotionally difficult law of wealth. Rule 3. You must detach from the need to be liked. Hear this and let it bury itself deep inside your soul. The moment you need approval is the moment you sell your power. The man who fears disapproval will never build anything great. The woman who avoids judgment will never command the room she was born to lead. You must choose now before your next breath between two roads. One leads to peace with the world and war within yourself. The other leads to peace within and misunderstanding by others. Only one of those roads leads to wealth. You must become indifferent to how others perceive your ambition, not because you are arrogant, but because your mission demands emotional sovereignty. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the choice to preserve your fire instead of explaining your flame. Every moment you spend justifying your actions to people who are not building what you are building is a moment stolen from your destiny. And remember this, no one mocks the silent worker forever. At first they'll ignore you, then they'll mock you, then they'll resent you, then they'll ask you how you did it. But by then, you will have built something so unshakable that their opinion will be irrelevant. This is what detachment gives you, emotional freedom. And emotional freedom is the soil where wealth grows. Now we enter sacred territory. Rule 4, you must obey structure, not mood. The poor move by emotion. The rich move by system. If you are still letting your emotions determine your execution, you are still living as a slave to your lower self. You do not need to feel like doing it. You need to do it. Because every time you obey your system instead of your mood, you build self-trust. And that self-trust becomes internal capital, the kind of wealth that no market crash can touch. Structure is your salvation. It saves you when energy is low. It saves you when uncertainty is high. It saves you when doubt whispers lies in your ear. Structure is the bridge between desire and destiny. And your structure must be designed to serve your aim, not your feelings. You must build daily non-negotiables into your life. Rituals, habits, standards. And those standards must rule. If you allow yourself to take a day off every time you feel low, your bank account will reflect the cost. If you delay action until the inspiration comes, your results will be held hostage by chance. But if you structure your discipline, you will free yourself from the prison of procrastination. Do it daily. Do it without emotion. Do it until the act becomes your nature. And once it does, you will discover a new form of power, the ability to move without waiting, the ability to act without permission, the ability to advance without being pushed. That is power. That is wealth. And that is the power you must now claim. We now arrive at the final and most sacred rule. Rule 5. You must become a master of inner reality before you ever expect outer wealth. This is where most fail. This is where the dreams of millions are buried. Not because they lacked opportunity, but because they failed to control the territory of their own mind. The mind is the engine. The emotions are the fuel. But the hand on the wheel, that is your conscious control. And if you do not control your inner dialogue, if you do not control what you focus on, what you believe, and what you rehearse daily, then no amount of external work can save you. Let me make this truth eternal. If you command your thoughts, you command your future. If you allow your thoughts to wander, your life will follow their confusion. This is the 5th law, the final law, and the law upon which all other wealth-building efforts either rise or collapse. It is called the law of inner dominion, and it means this: you must take full sovereign responsibility for your inner state every moment of every day without exception. This is not a suggestion. This is the requirement for wealth. You must own your reactions. You must dominate your responses. You must become emotionally neutral in the presence of chaos, setbacks, betrayal, delays, and criticism. Why? Because wealth demands stability, and stability cannot exist in the mind of a man ruled by emotions. The world is watching you. It wants to know, can he be trusted with success? Can she be trusted with power? And your reaction to difficulty answers that question louder than your resume ever could. Build this habit. Pause before responding. Ask, what does my mission require? Not, what do I feel like doing? That one question will save your business, your relationships, your momentum, and your future. Now let's go even deeper. You must begin the daily practice of autosuggestion, not as a cute ritual, but as a powerful tool of mental engineering. Each day, speak to yourself like a builder instructing a crew. Your mind does not argue, it obeys. It accepts what you feed it, especially if repeated with conviction. So give it new commands. Give it structure. Say, I am the master of my fate. I do not negotiate with distraction. I am emotionally unshakable, mentally focused, and spiritually aligned with wealth. I do not chase money. I attract it through my standard, through my actions, through my clarity. Say it daily. Say it in silence. Say it in struggle. Say it when you're alone. Say it when you don't believe it. Because repetition rewires identity. And once your identity shifts, the world has no choice but to respond. This is not magic. This is mechanics of the mind. And every wealthy man or woman you have ever admired has done it, whether they call it affirmations, declarations, or mental conditioning. They built their outer empire by first mastering their inner kingdom. Now hear me. If you disobey this rule, if you allow thoughts to run wild, if you allow emotions to govern, if you refuse to recondition your subconscious, then you will find yourself rich in talent, but broke in results. Why? Because the subconscious always wins. It will sabotage what you try to build with logic if your emotional programming is not aligned with abundance. You must teach yourself to believe in your wealth before it arrives. You must condition yourself to act like one who deserves it, not from arrogance, but from identity alignment. And once that identity is installed, once your thoughts, feelings, and actions begin to harmonize with wealth, then success will no longer be a chase. It will be a response. The world responds to structure. Money flows to order. And your inner world must become the most structured system in your life. Now let's address a principle the world fears to admit. You must learn to love the lonely work. This is the separation point, the filter, the final wall between mediocrity and unstoppable success. Because no habit, no rule, no law will last if you cannot learn to love doing the work alone, without praise, without support, without applause, without results at first. There is a season where your habits will look like loss, where your new standard will isolate you, where your emotional discipline will confuse others, where your silence will be misread as arrogance, where your detachment will be called selfish. Let them talk. This is the price of greatness, and those who cannot pay it perish in the crowd. Build your emotional armor. When loneliness knocks, keep building. When no one believes, keep building. When doubt whispers, keep building. Because the ones who endure the silent season of construction, they inherit the noise of legacy. Now remember, these 5 rules are not part-time advice. They are full-time architecture. You must live them. You must repeat them. You must bleed them into every fiber of your day. And one day the world will ask how you did it. They'll say you got lucky. They'll say you're naturally gifted. They'll say you were in the right place at the right time. But you will know the truth. You obeyed the rules when no one was looking. You trained your mind when no one believed. You restructured your habits when no one clapped. You rewired your subconscious while others were chasing validation. And that is why wealth chased you. Not because you begged, but because you became. You must understand this. The rules of wealth are not suggestions. They are demands. They do not bend to opinion. They do not yield to comfort. They do not slow down for fear. They obey only one thing: consistency of application. You are either living by them or you are living beneath them. There is no middle. And if you feel stuck, if you feel trapped in cycles of progress and relapse, of vision and hesitation, of hope and inaction, it is not because the rules have failed you. It is because you have not yet become the kind of individual these rules were designed to reward. Let us now drill deeper into the structure of inner control, because it is here, and only here, that the real empire is built. Most people believe money lives in the bank, but I tell you, money lives in your emotional discipline. When you master your reactions, you master negotiation. When you master your thoughts, you master time. When you master your focus, you master opportunity. And when you master your environment, you master outcomes. The man who is ruled by impulse cannot manage wealth. The woman who is ruled by noise cannot create results. So the first business you must run is the business of your inner world. You must become a CEO of silence, a commander of self-direction, a protector of energy. You do not owe your energy to every emotion. You do not owe your time to every request. You do not owe your attention to every headline. You owe everything, every drop, to the mission. That is how rich men think. That is how legacy is built. Now here is a law most never understand. You cannot be emotionally rich while you are mentally broke. Let me say it again. You cannot be emotionally rich, calm, clear, focused, sovereign if your mental habits are chaotic, compulsive, and inconsistent. Your financial success will never outpace your psychological order. So the first budget you must create is for your thoughts. How many thoughts are you wasting on worry? How many thoughts are spent trying to control what others think? How many hours are burned rehearsing situations you cannot change? If your mental spending is undisciplined, your money will follow. But the one who budgets their energy profits. He knows where his attention is going. She knows where her boundaries lie. They know where to say no, and more importantly, when to say nothing at all. Because silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. And silence is the foundation of all high-income decisions. When you are reactive, you negotiate poorly. When you are reactive, you invest recklessly. When you are reactive, you commit emotionally. and wealth cannot survive in the hands of the emotionally weak. So now build this rule into your bones. My emotional state is mine to manage, not the world's to provoke. Make it your creed. Repeat it in traffic. Repeat it when your emotions rise. Repeat it when betrayal arrives. Repeat it when the world tries to tempt your peace into panic. And do not stop until your inner calm is no longer conditional, because that is the climate in which wealth flourishes. Let us now sharpen the most powerful blade you possess, your decision making. Understand this. Decisions shape destiny, not talent, not luck, not exposure, not credentials. The richest individuals are not those who know the most. They are those who decide the fastest and follow through the longest. That is all. They make fewer decisions but better ones. They make them faster and with more finality. They do not revisit decisions once they're made. They live them. They are loyal not to feelings but to direction. And they build their entire day around reinforcing that direction. So if you are still overthinking, if you are still double-guessing your path, wondering what others will think, revisiting past failures, then you are not in decision. You are in delay. And delay is the seed of regret. Make this your habit. One decision, one direction, one standard. And from that build. Now listen to me carefully. If you forget everything else, remember this. You will never out-earn your self-image. You may try. You may hustle. You may grind harder than the rest. But if your internal identity is still that of a struggler, a chaser, a victim, money will come and it will vanish. Why? Because your subconscious is loyal to your self-image, and your self-image is shaped by repetition, belief, and behavior. So what must you do? You must train yourself to see wealth as natural. Train yourself to see power as responsibility. Train yourself to believe that your standard, not your history, determines your income. That means cutting out any language, thought, or habit that supports poverty, even subtly. No more, I can't afford that. No more, it's too hard. No more, that's for people like them. Number, that identity is dead. From this day forward, you must install a new truth. I am the source of my results. I am the standard for my success. I am not hoping to get rich. I am becoming rich by daily design. Say it until it feels uncomfortable. Then say it until it feels true. Then say it until the world adjusts to match your belief. Because the world does not respond to desperation. It responds to structure, to conviction, to alignment. And those three things, structure, conviction, and alignment, must now become your religion. Not once, not weekly, but daily. Until they are not what you do, they are who you are. By this point, something inside you should be burning. Not excitement, not motivation, but resolve. The quiet, immovable kind, the kind that says, I will not go back to the old version of me. I will not live another day by feeling. I will not permit one more moment of distraction in a life this important. Because once you've seen what's possible, going back is betrayal. You know now that wealth is not mysterious, it is mechanical. And like any machine, it operates according to laws. Laws that reward the few who master self-command and punish the many who surrender to impulse. So now, we must dive deeper into personal initiative, the engine of all progress. Nothing moves without it. No opportunity appears. No habits form. No fortune is built. And what is initiative? It is the ability to act without being told, to begin without being praised, to move without external fire. It is the refusal to wait. And I tell you now, as plain and true as I can, every time you wait, wealth waits longer. Every time you hesitate, someone else takes the lead. Every time you delay, you declare you're not ready. But when you initiate, when you move before the world approves, you signal to the universe that you are not a beggar of blessings, but a builder of systems. This is the secret behind the fast-rising few. They act in the silence. They execute without reward. They move through the void with no need for a spotlight. And then one day the world calls them lucky. There is no luck. There is initiative. There is preparation. There is clarity. And these three initiative, preparation, and clarity are not talents. They are habits. Train them, and you rise. Neglect them, and you decay with excuses that sound noble but mean nothing. Now listen to this. The man who moves only when inspired will serve the man who moves by structure. If you want to be rich, you must act long before it feels good. You must take the first step while still doubting. You must write the first word before the world validates it. You must invest before the market confirms you. You must speak before the room is ready, because that is what leaders do. And wealth does not follow the herd. It follows the few who lead when others hesitate. Now, let us explore something even more critical: your relationship to resistance. Because if you seek comfort, you are not ready for wealth. Wealth is not comfortable. It is not easy. It is not polite. It is demanding. It is sharp. It is surgical. It will cut you, trim your fat, your laziness, your softness, your addiction to ease. And unless you welcome that process, you are not becoming rich, you are becoming resentful. Let me say this clearly. Every moment of resistance is a test. And each time you obey resistance, you reinforce weakness. But each time you defeat it, even in silence, even in private, you elevate your standard of power. And standard is everything. If your standard allows quitting, you will quit. If your standard allows excuses, you will build nothing. If your standard accepts distraction, your life will reflect it. But once your standard becomes non-negotiable, when you truly believe that your future is not optional, then every day becomes sacred. You rise earlier. You move keter. You execute sharper. You protect your time like royalty guards a crown. Because you know, the quality of your standard determines the quantity of your wealth. Nothing more, nothing less. Now let's destroy one last lie before we enter the final section of this speech. The lie that money changes you. Money exposes you. If you are weak without it, you'll be weak with it. If you are reactive without it, you'll be reckless with it. If you are undisciplined in poverty, you'll be chaotic in abundance. So stop focusing on money and start focusing on mastery. Because when you master your thoughts, when you master your emotions, when you master your response to adversity, silence, fatigue, and rejection, money has no choice but to follow. Why? Because the universe always pays the builder. Always. Eventually, without exception, your only job is to stay in motion. Not frantically, but precisely, daily, and without asking for applause. Because you're not doing this to be liked. You're not doing this to go viral. You're doing this to become the kind of person that no circumstance, no economy, no critic, no betrayal can defeat. A person built from within. A person who follows the 5 rules of wealth as if they were sacred law. And because of that, everything changes. Not someday, not when the timing is right, but now, because you have decided. And decision, real decision, always leads to dominion. And now we reach the summit, where the wind is thinner, the silence louder, the distractions fewer, and the vision sharper. This is the place where most never arrive, not because they are not capable, but because they are unwilling to submit to the law. The law of wealth is clear. It has no mercy for half commitments. It rewards only the individual who obeys it not as an idea, but as a lifestyle. You now know the 5 rules. They are not mysteries. They are mirrors reflecting back the discipline or the disorder of your inner world. So, ask yourself, with violent honesty, have I truly committed to a creator's mindset, or do I still consume more than I build? Do I move daily in alignment with a definite purpose, or am I still seeking balance between comfort and ambition? Have I burned the addiction to approval, or do I still need others to agree before I act? Do I obey structure over emotion, or do I still worship the God of how I feel? And most important of all, have I become the master of my inner world, or do I still rent space to doubt, fear, insecurity, laziness, and noise? Because wealth does not begin with strategies. It begins with sovereignty. You must become the ruler of your thoughts, the architect of your time, the commander of your reactions, and the unquestioned authority of your daily habits. The reason so few become rich is because so few become this disciplined, this ordered, this detached from weakness. But if you do, If you truly decide right now that the version of you who lives by these 5 rules is the only version allowed to remain, then I will tell you exactly what will happen. Your circle will shrink, your clarity will grow, your distractions will vanish, your routine will harden, your results will compound, and your mind, your magnificent, focused, sovereign mind will become a magnet for every opportunity, every connection, every resource, every dollar, every moment of leverage that once seemed impossible. Because wealth responds to alignment. It is not chasing you. It is waiting for you to stop chasing everything else. It is not being blocked. It is simply not yet matching your current level of structure, vision, and emotional control. And when it does, when your actions, habits, thoughts, and energy match the level of wealth you claim to desire, the floodgates open. Not by chance, not by hustle, not by luck, by law. So now, I ask you for one final act. A declaration, a covenant between your present and your future. Say it. Let it shake the old version of you down to its roots. From this moment forward, I reject the chaos of the crowd. I reject the weakness of reactivity. I reject the laziness of delay. I reject the addiction to approval. I reject the poison of excuses. I reject the myths that wealth is random or reserved for the chosen few. I am chosen because I choose. I choose clarity. I choose emotional neutrality. I choose definite purpose. I choose structure over sensation. I choose silence over noise. I choose the standard of wealth before the arrival of money. And because I have chosen these things, I cannot be stopped. Let those words carve themselves into your spirit, not as poetry, as policy. Because the moment you begin to live them, the world adjusts its response. People treat you differently. Opportunities find you. Decisions become easier. Fatigue becomes irrelevant. Fear becomes fuel. And your life, your daily life, begins to look, feel, and function like a machine engineered for success. This is what it means to attract money now. It does not begin with dollars. It begins with discipline. It does not begin with a secret. It begins with structure. It does not begin with learning more. It begins with applying what you already know, relentlessly. And if you will live by the 5 rules, if you will defend them with the same ferocity the average person defends their excuses, then you will become not just rich, but undeniably unshakable. Not because you found the path, but because you became the path. You are the builder. You are the law. Now go and live as one who no longer chases wealth, but commands it, in silence, with power, for life.